Hey, what's up, guys? Tyson Dela Cruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. In this video, we're going to check out this video from Patrick Bet David during his podcast Valuetainment. If you guys haven't seen that podcast, it's probably one of my favorite podcasts that I watch regularly, at least a couple times a week or once a week. Sometimes he can get a little political, but I love him. He's good, very opinionated guy. He has some good core family values based on what I see. And in this particular video, they're talking about young Americans are crushed by the cost of raising home prices. I can tell you here in Las Vegas that home prices have gone up significantly, where the cost of living for individuals here in Las Vegas is bananas. The cost for a condo is like 380. The cost for a single family home is about 440 or 420. I believe last time I checked, which was a week, maybe 2 weeks ago, we have an inventory of about 3,000 total units available, which is less than a month or so of inventory in a bullish market. But because inventory has been sitting on the market for so long, we have a high inventory count, and just the cost per square foot has gone up so high that traditional Americans or Las Vegans can't afford it. And that's why we're seeing a lot of influx from California, because you could buy a home for 440 or 500,000. Let's just say 600,000. You could buy a home for 600,000. It's nice. It's beautiful. It's a lot better than the piece of shit that you're getting in California. And there's less homeless, but there is a significant amount of homeless population, just because, man, the cost of living is freaking bonanzas. Let's go ahead and jump into this video, and I'd love to get you guys' opinions on this, but let's hear what PBD has to say.
Housing. So what are they talking about? Housing, these young people. Housing affordability is a top election issue for Gen Z, according to a survey done by Redfin, with 12% of Gen Z respondents believe they will never own a home due to record high home prices, elevate mortgage rates above 7%, and expensive rent. Elijah De La Campa from Redfin noted the cost of starter homes has increased twice as fast as incomes. The median home sale price in the U.S. reached an all-time high of $390, May of 2023.
$390. That's nationwide. We're talking nationwide, $390. Here in Las Vegas, I think it's about $440 last time I checked. So,
despite a strong economy with low unemployment and rising wages, many young Americans find buying a home impossible, with 42% of Gen Z receiving financial support from their parents for rent or housing costs. Holy shit. 42% of Gen Z is getting help from parents right now. While 90% of major metro areas saw an increase in housing supply, home prices in the South, particularly Austin, Texas, and Northport, Florida, are falling. Tom.
So, personally, I like Mr. Tom's opinions. He's a solid guy. He's an economist. He knows his data. Good guy to have on your side. Let's see what he has to say.
No surprise. This is what's going on. When you see an article like this, it really just pisses me off, because this is just a little pebble of what is a bigger affordability crisis that's been brought on by inflation and printing a bunch of money.
Absolutely.
That's what's happened here. And now this is, remember, I always talk upstream, downstream. You hear me talk about that. This is the downstream problem. This is the polluted little lake that's at the end of the creek and the river, and the creek and the river are bringing the bad water into the lake. And why is it bad water? Because it got polluted way upstream. This is what it is. Upstream from these people, that's while they were in high school, while they were in college, if they went to college, or serving a couple of years in the military, inflation was going crazy. We were printing money. We raised the price of assets. And now we have affordability crisis. So the number one issue for Americans when they say it's housing, well, what they're really saying is affordability in America. That's what they're saying. And they're saying,
absolutely, guys. How many of you guys out there are feeling the impact of inflation. Particularly I've noticed a significant increase because going to the grocery store, $60, $100 doesn't really get you very far on groceries. I think that's why more upper income earners are shopping at Walmart. There is a statistic out that higher income earners are shopping at Walmart because of the affordability. Me personally, I don't necessarily like Walmart much, but I've been shopping there. There, Smith's, Whole Foods has been kind of eliminated from my box, just because unless I'm getting some fruits or veggies, it's either Sprouts. If you're here on the West Coast, Sprouts. Trader Joe's is pretty solid still. But Whole Foods hasn't been in my Rolodex of grocery shopping in a long time.
Currently, the affordability is so bad that I got to think about getting support from my parents or living with my parents. That's what it is. And so if you let this in your mind be like, oh, it's the housing market, it's not. It's the leadership of this country, and it's the affordability crisis showing up as the number one issue for this group. The affordability is hitting them hardest in terms of housing.
Well, let me talk to my Gen Z friends out there. I almost going to give an MLK speech right now. I have a dream.
Here we go. I have a couch.
I have a dream. Exactly. I have a couch. Guys, the American dream, it's still alive and well in America. The only difference is the American dream has changed. The American dream of your parents and your grandparents no longer exists. The ability to get a job and work at the same job for 50 years and get a pension and retire and get a gold watch and say, hey, great job, and get a house and get a 2-car garage and have 2.2 kids and have a dog and just live in the suburbs and just have a two-car situation and just work for the same company no longer exists. So stop crying about it, that everything that happened in the past in the 80s and 90s when your parents were starting to make money has changed. So rather than cry about it and bitch and moan, oh my God, I can't, do something different. What's the definition of crazy? Doing the same thing over and over and over again
with no result
and expecting the different results. So what's different? I always say this. The best thing you can do, especially when you're 20s and 30s, to you guys out there, women, you have a different objective, okay? For the men out there, I would encourage you to do the following. Understand this basic concept. The number one thing you can be doing in your life right now, before you have kids and a family, as you're working on your career, purpose over pleasure, purpose over punani, is understand this concept.
Purpose over punani.
Low overhead and high flexibility is the key to your life right now.
I think Adam has it on lock. Just in general, low overhead, high flexibility, low overhead in all aspects of your life, whether you're running a business. Look at ways to reduce costs in any way necessary. Some of us got hit over the last 16 to 18 months, so it's been fairly difficult to kind of navigate through a couple things. So, if you reduce your overhead, obviously you're going to have less stress. If you got that car payment, if you got that house payment, if you got, the grocery bill, if you got all these other things, the overhead is going to crush you. And, I know a lot of people in the real estate space that closed their brokerages because they saw that, hey, the brokerage isn't generating enough money for the amount of risk, the risk versus reward type deal.
Keep your costs low, keep it moving, keep it grooving, and keep your flexibility high, because you don't know where you're going to end up in the next 2, 5, 10 years. You might work for this company, an opportunity comes up. You might be in New York, you might be in Boston. You might go from Boston to Austin. All of a sudden you're in California. Fuck California, moving to Florida. Well, cost of living in Florida is a little too high. Boom, I'm going to North Florida. Keep it moving. So the cost of a house, when I started doing financial content in 2016 to 18, how much was the cost of an average house in America? $250,000. Okay. How much is the average cost that they say is a median house in America now? $400,000. What's the exact number, Tom?
$390,613.
So save that extra 10 grand, put that to the stock market. What's my point? So if you can't buy a house, stop bitching about it and do something different. Go get a roommate, live with your girl, split the rent, figure it out. I get it. If you have low overhead, take all that extra money that you would typically be pumping into a mortgage payment, into taxes, into insurance, into maintenance, into HOA, and just invest in the market. Now, where should you invest in the market? Get a 401k, get a Roth IRA, get index funds, get crypto. Like Pat always talks about, non-duplicatable assets, get some cards, just do something different. Because the reality is this, is that our interest rates coming down anytime soon, Tom?
No, but the end of this year, there's still going to be mortgages like 6.75.
Bingo. So rather than sit
That's the biggest pickle, man. Is, you know, at the beginning of the year, they were talking about interest rates. They were going to drop interest rates 6 times by the end of 2024. You know, as this kind of sits now, they're like, dude, we're not dropping interest rates maybe 2 times. So he has a point. You know, do something different. I know a lot of people in the real estate industry that have switched their strategy, specifically, you know, in regards of flips or wholesaling real estate. They found different avenues to generate some different types of funds, and really, you know, this is a really good opportunity to kind of diversify your skill sets, diversify, you know, what you're doing in the marketplace to provide value in it.
around being like, I don't have a house. Just do something different. And that's what I've done. There you go.
You know, Rob, pull up what I just showed you, what I just texted you, if you could
Rob's
do
the
that.
man, by the way. Pulling up stuff.
After that fantastic Adam Luther King speech.
There it is. I have a dream.
Exactly.
Was just,
I can sum it up. Get mad and vote.
ALK,
Yeah.
Rob.
The voting isn't going to do anything about the home prices, though.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, look,
I
there's a part of it here that if you can, you got to, Rob, close that and go to the bottom. There you go. Go a little lower. Okay, so check that out. So that's inventory versus price of existing homes. Now that only goes till 2022, right? The blue shows median price of existing homes keep climbing, right? The green is inventory, right? Is inventory. If inventory keeps going lower and lower and lower, prices go up. I mean, this is like the basic supply and demand, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
the whoever becomes and the types of homes they're no longer building is starter homes.
Yep.
Like it's almost like this. Like imagine you come to my dealership. What is the average salary coming out of college? Just give me a number. Let's say $50,000. Okay. So imagine in America, all of a sudden you go, if you're making 50 grand a year, what apartment rent can you afford at 50 grand a year? You can live by yourself. What rent can you?
$1,500, $2,000.
Let's say $1,500 a month. Let's say $1,500 a month. Okay, $1,500 a month. What am I getting? Studio, 1 bedroom. I'm not getting anything crazy.
Yeah, it depends on what city you're living in, and you're getting a half a shoebox in New York. You're
Depending
getting
on the
a
city,
decent apartment
2
in
bedroom
Oklahoma.
or a studio. Is that fair?
Yes.
2 bedroom
Yep,
or
a
studio.
2 and 2 or studio.
Yeah,
exactly.
So this is the problem, Adam. That's a real issue. That people who you're voting for, this has to be something that the younger audience, Gen Z, you have to be asking about. So imagine all of a sudden, the average kid coming out of college, rent, he can afford $1,500. She can afford $1,500. What is the average car payment you can afford when you come out of college?
Jeez. You can't.
No, you can't afford. Just give me a number.
$200.
No.
You're not going to find nothing at 200.
Yeah, you're not going to find a car payment below $500 and a new car payment.
Rob,
is
what do you want to
$750.
say?
For like
Rob,
but what kind of car are you getting? Are you going cheap?
no, forget about it. What can
just
you afford?
any
Give me a
car.
payment.
Yeah, that's the big thing. You know, what can you afford? I think, you know, in the bullish market, people were just buying stuff and getting stuff. And you know, now we're seeing the crux of it.
Yeah.
You could probably afford around $300, which isn't going to get you
That's what I'm
anything.
saying.
When-
Okay.
If you're using the qualifying,
So to explain this analogy is the following. Imagine if 100% of dealerships across the country, you go to the dealership, you're making 50 grand a year, your rent is $1,500. The minimum cheapest car you can buy is $1,200.
Once.
You can't afford it.
Yeah.
So then you have to go, what's the alternative? Either Uber or get a bicycle or work close to his place. But there's not the jump doesn't go from 0 to 300 to 600 to 900 to 1200. It goes 0 to what? 1200.
Yeah.
What Gen Z is saying is, man, I'm coming out. I need something in between. I can't go 0 to a $400,000 house. What if I could go from 0 to a $200,000 house? This level is missing. That's
Exactly.
the level that's missing.
Mhm.
And builders, whoever's running for office, whatever in your state, your governor, senator,
I want to chime in really quick because I know a lot of builders out here or investors, with hedge funds investors specifically, the hedge fund investment funds, they are acquiring land here in Las Vegas. They are acquiring land and they're building to rent. They're not building to sell. So they're buying an acre parcel, 2 acre parcel, and building homes only to be rented, brand new, built to rent. Think of that. So this, in these metropolitan areas, they are providing more supply for rent, and that is what is going to happen.
And you can talk to Congress. You can even bring this up on Twitter with others, with presidents, is what are we doing to build more starter homes in cities? What incentive is being given to builders to build more starter homes? We need more starter homes. That's what's not being built for them to have the opportunity to buy something. Tom, you look like you want to say something.
No, I'm what I want to say is bingo, exactly right, PBD. $50,000 after taxes is approximately, on a national
40
basis,
grand.
no, 36, which is exactly $3,000 a month. And if I spent $1,200 on rent, $1,500 on rent, that's half of my take home.
Mhm.
That's above 40%. So now I've got 1,500 left. That's why we're saying the most you could possibly afford in there would be 300. Now you got to live on $900, $200 a week for food, electricity, all the rest of the stuff. Tilt, as they say in pinball, that model doesn't work. It's exactly what Pat's talking about. There's nothing left.
Let me ask you, what's a bigger burden? What's a bigger burden? Is the bigger burden boomers who are 62 years old, 65 years old, 55 and up, who have worked their asses up? Let me just go 60 plus. Your kids are 30 years old. They're coming out of college. You're 25 years old. They're coming out of college. The burden of parents to support younger kids, or is it the bigger burden for kids to support aging parents? What's a bigger burden?
It's a way bigger burden for the parents who are still taking care of the kids.
What do you think?
I think the bigger burden we're going to see is the kids taking care of the parents once entitlements get cut and as things can become more expensive, because there are far more boomers that need to be taken care of, and there are far more boomers in that boomer generation that don't have
cost.
that don't have a responsible, or don't have, not responsible, they don't have an adequate supplemental savings to go along with Social Security and Medicare.
Yep.
The number of those versus the number of kids they have, that's, I think, PBD, I think that gets worse year by year. I think that's the burden. I think sometimes the kids moving back in may help. What if your son or daughter who's single moves back in and pays you $400 a month?
Yeah.
And takes you to your medical appointments and balances out some of your food bill?
Yeah, there was a point in time where the Gen Z starter home had a casita or additional living facility. Mother-in-law quarters is what it's called. But I do see a potential reverse coming here. It's actually here now.
I guess
There's a lot of boomers and there's not a lot of kids, and there's a lot of
That's what I'm
boomers
asking the
without good
question.
savings.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
I guess the question is this a short-term problem or a long-term problem? Because as much as you're talking about the boomers, there's also the boomerangers, the boomerang generation, all these Gen Z kids that were trying to, make something of themselves between 2020 and 2024. Oh, COVID happened, reverse, boomerang. Now they're living back with the parents. What was the stat here? What percentage of parents
42%, 40 whatever percent
are still basically getting funding from their
Yes,
parents? What are we
yes.
talking about here? Obviously, the
You
kids are
think
still
that's a
relying on
bigger
their
burden?
parents. Short term, undoubtedly. Long term, yes. People are living longer. Like now I'm helping my mother pay for stuff. But when I was younger, my mother would help me. It's just the cycle of life.
Yeah.
But you actually brought up a really good point about how there's no starter homes.
Yeah.
So this is sort of indicative of how the middle class is getting squeezed. You were basically saying that there's nothing in the middle, right?
You
And-
need that. There
exactly.
needs to be a level
So exactly, I agree with you. But what's the metaphor here is that we always hear that the widening gap between the rich and the poor, the K-shaped economy, that the middle class is getting squeezed, right? The wealth gap. So you're either rich or you're either poor.
Yeah.
So if you're rich, you're not really worried about what rent is or what the mortgage is. You can pay 10 grand a month or 20 grand a month, no problem.
I agree there. The big gap, the K-shaped gap is what he was talking about, is, where either affluent, super rich, or you're poor, and the middle class is getting squeezed. Cost of living, cost of goods, cost of all these things, they're just getting squeezed, and the middle class will drop down into a lower class, and that's just what we're seeing.
But if you're in the poor camp, and you always say, who's in your ear? Where you're getting your advice from? If you're 20 years old and you're getting advice from your 52-year-old father or your 82-year-old grandfather, they're more than likely giving you the wrong advice.
Yeah.
Why would I say such a thing? Because the world has changed and they haven't adapted.
Yeah.
They're still telling you, well, you got to go to college and you got to buy a house and you got to do what I did. No, you don't. Do the exact things that they did, because the world has changed completely.
Yeah.
If you just do it, like if you're talking about, there's one problem that these kids all have, Tom. It's a 4-letter word, and it's called math. The math doesn't add up for them to buy a house,
Mathing,
to have a
mathing.
car payment, and to actually live a life. Last point, we did a segment a week ago called Money Dysmorphia. Do you remember that? Money dysmorphia, how Gen Z is just completely aloof when it comes to their money. They see on social media all these kids balling out, having the time of their lives, and they're like, oh, I could go and afford a Mercedes-Benz. Bitch, you can't afford a Mercedes-Benz. You make 50 grand a year. You need to make $120 to afford that Benz. Now they got an $800 car payment, and they're wondering why they can't live their life, because you're doing the same things your parents did and you can't afford it.
A technical question. How do you know they're a bitch?
I've seen
How
it.
do you
I've
know
seen it.
where you categorically tell the entire PBD podcast
Yes.
audience, you call them, but by the way, he thinks that. The rest of us don't. The rest of us think you're a big dog,
Yeah.
capable
No.
of doing something
I
special
would
with your
say
life
that
if you
there's
choose to.
10% of the people
Anyways,
out there is people in the comments.
Let
that
me,
are bitches.
if there's ever been a time for you to find ways to get better strategies to recreate yourself so you can take your business to the next level in 2024, 2025, this is the time, because
Yes.
AI's speed of advancement is accelerating at pace that most people are not going to be able to follow unless if you're going out there getting these tactics and strategies from others. This is why once a year I host.
Yeah, absolutely right. I agree with PBD. He's probably going to go into a pitch right now, so I'm going to stop that video. But I absolutely agree. AI is definitely, full steam ahead in regards of automation, uh, y- image generation, AI chatbots. There's ways to reduce your overhead in your business with AI chatbots, with IRV, inbound call taking sections. IRVs, like, when a call comes in, it can automatically categorize the leads, so you're getting good quality leads on inbound calls. If you know how to do these things, if you know how to set up a website, if you know how to run funnels, if you know how to if you're educating yourself on technology advancements, I think you're able to get ahead. It might be a rough road, but if you're educating yourself and getting strong and proficient in areas where people are not proficient. Tom mentioned that there are significant amount of baby boomers, right? Baby boomers are used to, so they're used to not necessarily hard work, but they're used to manual labor, right? So I do see two gaps coming along here in the near future. The gap for necessary manual labor, where Gen Z folks, or under Gen Z, they don't necessarily want to do manual labor. So I do see an increase of the need for individuals that know how to do manual labor, whether that's steel, pipe fitting, concrete. The days of going to traditional school and having a traditional education are no longer, where you can go to a trade school and learn a particular trade and become a high value in the marketplace. That also includes tech and AI. This is an astronomical time to be involved with tech and AI. I see it as relevant as when the internet came along. You know, when the internet came along, when AOL came along, people were like, this thing is never going to catch on. It's never going to, this internet thing is just going to be an internet thing. But look where the internet is at right now. And this is the same type of mentality that some people have towards AI and tech. They say this thing isn't going to be here, right? But I think this AI is going to take over a lot of different jobs, and it's going to, swoop a lot of people out of the marketplace, and then also increase a lot of opportunities for individuals that know or have a wantingness to learn these particular skills and techniques in the marketplace. So this is one way how to increase value in the marketplace. And then when it comes back, I'm going to spin this back around to, Americans being crushed by the rising home prices. It is time to reduce the overhead. It is time to learn a new skill, and it is time to kind of adapt to the marketplace, because honestly, this is the way it's going to be. This is just the way that it's going to be. And if you're not adapting, you're collapsing. I'd love to get your guys' thoughts on this. Drop the comments down below. I'd love to hear your guys' personal thoughts on this. Other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll see you on the next one.